Good morning, YouTube. I hope you guys are all doing so good. We have a lot going on today, so it's a perfect day for you to join us as we make dough for a lot of customers. Before we jump into all of that, there are a few things that I wanted to share with you which could be helpful for you if you are running a microbakery. The first thing is I am starting to sell sandwich loaves to restaurants and to coffee shops so that they can use my bread to make sandwiches for their customers. And yes, of course, they could use the artisan bread. Of course, you can make sandwiches out of those. That is part of the reason why people get bread, right? But if you're a restaurant or you're a coffee shop and you're looking for consistency throughout a loaf, sometimes those artisan loaves aren't the best because you can only use X amount of the bread because one piece is so small, one piece is so big. It just doesn't really make consistent sandwiches. So what I am doing for some local businesses is I am selling them sandwich loaves. This is the exact same recipe as my artisan loaf. It's just in a loaf pan. It's going to be sliced for them. As far as packaging goes, I am testing out just the plastic bags for this because they're not putting it out for anybody to see. It will cut costs a little bit, but I'm also slicing it. So really the price is just going to remain the same. I still have to use labels and all that stuff just because that's regulatory for the state. But I think for them, it would be easier to have it in a plastic bag where they can have a twist tie or they can just tie it up like this and it'll keep the bread a little bit more fresh than the paper bags. So this is going to be a great option if you are looking to expand. Even honestly, this is now on my menu and this is going to be a great option for everybody to have a loaf in their house and switch out their white bread that has 5,000 ingredients and have a loaf of bread for their family that has 3 simple ingredients. So I know a lot of you who already make sourdough, you know that like this is the goal, is to get bread into people's homes. And I think one of the best ways is to start offering a sandwich loaf, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can simply just make it in a loaf pan and put another loaf pan on top. Instead of a Dutch oven, you will just take and put it in like this. You obviously have to have oval Banneton baskets so that your bread fits in there. And you will have to adjust your recipe size so that it's not getting too big, but you would just bake it like this at your normal temperature and you're gonna come out with a sandwich loaf. As far as slicing goes, that's gonna be determined kind of by your customer. For this loaf, I went with a 1-inch slice. I'm gonna ask them what they think. If they want it to be a little bit thinner, we can definitely do that. I sliced the beginning of this loaf at 1/2 inch, and then I went to 1 inch just so they can see the difference, and then they can let me know, what they like better. So that is something that I really think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards. Obviously, the artisan loaves are beautiful. They have a little bit more of a hard crust on them than these ones, but I do think this is something that's maybe a little bit more practical as far as switching out your white bread to sourdough. So, all right, we have fed the starter. So here she is. I fed it at 8 o'clock. It's 9:13 now. We still have quite a ways to go. This needs to be all the way up to here before it's ready to go. I fed it 2 cups water, 4 cups flour, and this is what we're looking at right now. Lucky for me, my in-laws are taking the kids this afternoon for a sleepover, and I am going to just scrub down the house. Everything needs cleaned, reorganized, and we have a lot of dough to make, so I'm excited to take you guys with me. It's time to start making our dough. So my starter has bulked all the way up. It's actually fallen a little bit, which is perfectly fine. I have a bunch of water in my tub. This is my new tub that I just got. I am kind of maxing it out already. I'm going to try and do 18 loaves in here. I think it should be fine. I've seen a lot of people do more than that, so perfectly fine. I have now doubled my wholesale customer base. So I have this little gray book. This is where I keep like all of my recipes, my notes, all the things that I need so that if for some reason I were to go down, like this is my trusty notebook. So I have written in here all of my wholesale customers, how many times a week they get delivered, what days they get delivered, and then how the quantity of whatever they get. So today we are actually doing special orders and one wholesale customer. I was trying to keep all of my wholesale customers on one day, just for the ease of, delivery and stuff like that. But it has gotten too much with the way that I'm able to bake in my home oven. I can't do that. So Tuesdays and Fridays are for two of my wholesalers. Another wholesaler is on Friday as well. And then another one is on Thursday. Just got back from getting a bunch of stuff that I needed. I know in my last video I talked about like all of my supplies. If you missed that video, I'll put it somewhere wherever the card goes here. And you guys can check that out. But I really had to bulk up since I just got 2 new wholesale customers this week. That's going to really change the game for me. So I'm not even going to measure this out because I know I'm going to need all of that flour for sure. And let's just start mixing this in. I am in the market for a mixer. This mixing by hand business is now become for the birds. I think it's really cool that my bread is mixed by hand. I think that's something that, makes it a little bit different than the stuff you buy at the store. However, if you're the person mixing by hand, that doesn't sound so cool. In order for me to be in compliance with my state, I have to have my flour in these tubs. I used to not care, I'm going to be honest, and I would just keep it in like a garbage can. In the winter, it was fine because it like had a lid and it's secured and I didn't really care. But now that it's summer, there's fruit flies. I don't know, it just freaks me out. So I have changed everything over to these food grade bins. And since I've done that, I'm regretting it. I wish I would have just gotten one of those big food grade bins that can hold like 160 pounds or whatever, because filling these up is just a pain in the butt. So I have decided that I'm going to start on the basement project. This was supposed to be a project. I let you guys in on this probably 3 months ago. I can't remember. But I am building out a kitchen in my basement. My friend Cassie and I were talking about it today, and I keep calling it a bakery. And she's like, but it doesn't have a storefront, so it's technically just a kitchen. I'm like, okay, whatever. So it is a kitchen, and it'll be in our basement. We have a back half of our basement where there is literally nothing right now except our deep freezers. And so my whole plan was to actually have an entrance. Like I was thinking get one of those really cute doors that I forget what they call them, but where they're like in half, and the top you can open and the bottom you can keep closed, and have like a little sign outside of the house, like on the side of the house that said like bakery or some, I don't know, just something really cute. But my dreams were shattered by Andrew last night as he reminded me that if we wanted to do that, we'd have to cut into the foundation of the house. And yeah, it's just that's not gonna work. The other thing was to put a door in through our garage, which is still doable. But the whole point of this, long story, the whole point of me to put like a cute entrance and stuff is because I wanted to do like our workshops down there. So what would happen is everyone would come in there. I'd have a big island. I'd have stools. Everyone could sit around the island. We'd work, do the workshop down there. After last night, we measured out the space, and it's just going to be way too tight to do workshops down there. My kitchen area, if you've been to a workshop here, is small. We have a small house. It's tight, but it's open. So it doesn't feel so restricting. When we were down there yesterday, we were kind of like planning out like the sink, the oven, all this stuff. And if we had to put stairs in from coming from outside, it would eat up a good chunk of the whole plan. So all of this to say, the workshops will never be down there because it's just going to be way too tight. The workshops will continue to be up here. And if I have to, I would just cart the bread down there to bake, or just continue to bake it up here in my home oven for the workshops, unless I can find a space I can rent out to do the workshops. And then I would look into doing that so we could do more than what I do now. So that's super exciting. I'm just outgrowing my kitchen space. I'm just outgrowing it. It was bound to happen. I'm excited that it's happening, but it's also one of those things where it's like a whole nother project when I'm already kind of busy. So my husband and I talked about it last night, and we're going to start on that today. I'm going to, in between doing the dough, I'm going to go down there and start cleaning everything out and cleaning up there. You know, it's just like an old basement, so it needs to be cleaned up and stuff so we can start even working down there. But super exciting. So like I said, this dough is for special orders and a wholesale customer. So I have 18 loaves in here. This is definitely going to hold it. I am so over hand mixing, guys. This is just getting to be too much work. The thing is, when you're talking about running a business, time and energy is one thing that you have to consider. So if it takes me standing here doing this 20 minutes to mix this dough, because it does, it takes me a long time, that is time that I could be doing something else. So I could have already had my starter fed. I could be working on scones. I could be doing so many more things while I had this automated and mixing by itself. So when I'm thinking about business decisions, that's kind of one thing that I try and put at the forefront is, how is this going to benefit the process? Is it worth it? And I think a mixer at this point is a must. I am willing to sacrifice some of my savings for an oven for a mixer because this is just taking up so much time. But I wanted to kind of just chat with you guys today, like our old school videos a while back when I would just bake, mix my dough, we would chat, talk about all the things. I have been doing a lot of answering questions on Instagram, and I have some of those questions written down. So I figured I would just take some time to walk through with those with you today, because I'm sure there are questions you guys have that other people have asked on Instagram. You know what? I'm just going to go in with my hands for the rest of this. I'm getting so tired of mixing by hand. I'm hoping that I can purchase a mixer within the next few weeks. It's just something that I just do not look forward to anymore, is mixing all this by hand. Just too much. So let's talk about customers. Let's talk about setting boundaries with your customers. I think this is something that people don't talk about enough, and it needs to be talked about. When you're starting out, yes, you want to please everyone that you can. You want to try and get all the customers. You want to make exceptions. You want to try new things. When you get to a point where you're making 80, 90 loaves a week, you can no longer make those exceptions. And last week, I made a dumb mistake. I don't think I shared it on here. So I was making loaves for a friend, a gentleman who has given us a lot of wood that we use to heat our house with in the winter. Super nice guy. Very, very generous. And I was happy to bake loaves for him. He was requesting that I basically triple the amount of pepperoni that I put in. And he wasn't talking to me directly. He was talking to Andrew. And had it been something that I could have a conversation with him about, and I should have, I wouldn't have done it. Because there comes a point when you start making those exceptions that it messes with the recipe. And that's exactly what happened. So He asked for triple the pepperoni, and I was worried about it the entire time. I was like, this is just not going to be good, because the more pepperoni you put in, the greasier it gets. Like, I know this, I know it. And I should have just said no. But I wanted to make an exception. I wanted to, do the thing for the customer. I thought I was doing the right thing. So I went ahead and I made the bread. Had I had the conversation with him, I could have put it back on him, and I could have said, I can do that. However, if I do that, it's going to mess with the integrity of the bread. Your bread is going to be very greasy on the bottom, which is going to lead to darker, maybe even burnt spots. And I didn't have that conversation, and that was my fault. That conversation never happened. I just said, sure, great, I'd love to. And as I'm putting the pepperoni in, I'm like, I really don't want to be doing this. The whole time I was nervous, baked the bread, and it was burnt. Some of it was definitely burnt on the bottom. And my business decision was to go ahead and give him the bread. And had I been able to speak to him when I gave him the bread, I could have said, hey, Andrew told me you wanted this. I did it. However, this is what, this is a product that's going to end up being, but I didn't. I wasn't able to speak to him. I was just told to drop it off at a specific location, and that was the end of it. Well, he calls my husband and tells him that the bread was burnt, and I didn't even make him pay full price for it either. And that's the other thing is I'm not a person who cares about the money aspect. I really care about the quality. Of course, I need to get paid, but this is something I'm doing because I choose to. It's not something I'm doing because I have to. And that's a beast. My hands are disgusting. So it ended up, he told my husband that, the bread was burnt, and he kind of gave my husband a little bit of like a business lecture, which was weird. And it just left me feeling like I don't want to do anything extra for customers ever. And that's not a good feeling. I've never had a bad experience with a customer. No one has ever told me like, your bread is burnt, your bread is bad, like nothing. I ask for feedback all the time, and I'm willing to take the feedback. But going through that, I now have set boundaries that I will not change recipes for customers. If you want the bread the way it is, then that's how you're going to get it. I'm not going to add or anything, because I know in my mind that I shouldn't have done that. And I didn't listen to myself, and that was my fault. So that's not happening. I'm just setting very specific boundaries with myself, and I'm making it very clear to anyone who is helping me, or like Andrew, who, is working with me, like, this is our product. And if they don't want it the way it is, that's perfectly fine. They don't have to buy it, obviously. Can't compromise the quality of our product to please customers. That will turn into a complaint. From the beginning, it just felt wrong for me to do that. And now I know going forward that I will not make those compromises for people. Other boundary that I've been really working on is saying no. And it is really hard for me. I am a people pleaser 150%. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to like what I'm doing. I want to be validated. All those things. I don't know what Enneagram that is, but anyone who knows, just let me know. But I am very much a people pleaser. So running a business, you really have to tap into a business mindset, and you cannot be a people pleaser, because yes, you want to do everything for your customer, but I have customers who have bought from me before, and now they're asking if I will deliver bread to their house, because I used to do that, and I never charged anybody because I was trying to get my name out there. Well, now I'm baking 90 loaves a week. My bread is available at a bunch of different locations. I don't have time to get in the car and drive to 5 houses anymore. I just don't. So I am setting boundaries for that as well. Like, people are asking, they're 45 minutes from me, and they're saying, if I buy 4 loaves, will you deliver them to my house? And I just can't do that. I have little kids. Like, it's just not feasible. And for the most part, people have been very understanding. I have a few ladies who continue to ask, even though I've already set that boundary. And to me, that's very frustrating because it makes me feel bad. It feels like I'm not giving them the best customer service that I can. But in my heart and in my mind, I know that I can't spread myself that thin. So it's just something we have to work through as business owners. If you guys just do farm pickup and it works, praise the Lord, because my farm pickup, I'm telling you, is not good. People do not want to drive out to my farm. It's too far away and it's inconvenient. It's never, no one's ever driving out this way to go do something. Like, they're not. So I have to drive a half an hour, if not longer, to come pick up bread, and people just don't want to do that, which is why the wholesale model actually is like another good thing for me, because it gets it into the hands and mouths of people who would definitely not drive out here. Okay, she is mixing. I do my dough very dry. I have read all about hydration level and yada, yada, yada. I have tried to do my bread wet, and I cannot stand it. I don't like how it looks when I do it. It just doesn't feel good. So I do my dough really dry, but it all turns out. Okay, so setting boundaries, that's something that I think we can all be a little bit better at. Even in our personal lives, that's something that I'm really working on. It's hard. You want to please people. You want people to be happy, and you don't want to cause friction. But especially when you're running a business, you just have to have those tough conversations. Okay, so another question. I'm all over the place, just so you guys know. Another question that I have been getting asked a lot, this comes up often, especially on Instagram, is the inspection. How am I able to bake and sell bread out of my home? There's a special license, and in Pennsylvania, it's called a limited food establishment registration. Some places it's called a cottage food license. I don't know what else it would be called anywhere else, but that's how you are able to do it. If you think of, the easiest way I can explain it is, if you think of Amish made baked goods, anything that they would make in their home and sell, that would be something that would fall under that category. There is definitely restrictions with it. Pennsylvania is pretty lenient. Every inspector is definitely different. So I have been questioned multiple times about some of my inclusions. I have reached out to my inspector to make sure I am following every guideline that they have, and he said I am good to go. Basically, stop bothering me. I already said you're fine. Like, just do your thing. Some inspectors are a little bit more strict because of where you're located. So I know that there are some people who are close to New Jersey. New Jersey is very, very strict when it comes to their food registration thing. From what I understand, they have a long list of things you cannot put in your bread, and they have a very short list of things that you can. So I think vegetables are not allowed to be in your bread. So jalapeno cheddar would be out. There might be like specific vegetables that you can't have, but you might be able to get away with that if you use like canned stuff. I'm not sure. I obviously don't live there, so I didn't do any of the research. But that is just something that you would have to look into. But it's definitely doable. You can, for sure, bake bread in your home. You just have to figure out what that licensing would be in your area. So I'm gonna wash my hands. I'm gonna cover this with a damp cloth. I will come back in a half an hour. We will put some salt into this dough and we'll answer a few more of these questions. The story of every small business. Always just getting packages delivered. Oh, exciting. Okay, so these are tablecloths that got lost in God knows where. And these are for market. So I have 2 black tablecloths here. I think I showed you guys, and then I'm going to use this runner on the black tablecloths. It was just the cheaper option. And I think it will be perfect for market. So, cool. All of that is together. I need to put together a box with all the stuff that I'm going to use for, I keep saying market, but I'm doing market. I'm going to do a market next year. This year I'm only doing this fall festival that is actually September 15th. So it's only in a few weeks, which is why I have all this stuff coming in. So I need to put a box together with all of this. And these should be bags. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Those were supposed to come yesterday and they didn't. Dough looks really good. This thing is heavy as heck. I put half of the salt in now, and then I mix everything the best that I can. This is another reason why a mixer would be great. So in the process of mixing, if you have a mixer, you can do an auto lease with your flour. So what I could do would be, to change my recipe up a little bit, I would do my flour and water first, get that mixing, add in my starter, then add in my salt, all in the mixer, and then once it's done mixing, dump it into the tub, and then that's where I can do my stretch and folds from. It would just make it so much easier to do, especially because my dough is pretty stiff. It's not watery at all. So it would just make it a lot easier to handle. And it's just preference. This is just what I like. I know a lot of people who their dough is very moist. And that's their like style, and that's how they like it. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their own little thing that they, their way of doing it. This just works for me. So I also am training for, this is just like literally dumping information on you guys. I hope you're here for it. I'm also training for a 10K trail run, which I'm so excited about. I am obsessed with ultra running. Like, I just think that those athletes that are running 250 miles, 100 miles, 50 miles, like, that is insane. And my husband actually started doing triathlons last year, and I wanted no part of it. I had literally just had my daughter, and like the last thing on my mind was to run. But this year he did his first half marathon, which I'm so proud of him. Literally the day after his half marathon, I'm like, I need to start running, because watching these people come through that finish line and seeing like the hard work and dedication is just so inspiring. So I'm training for that trail run. It's in only a few days. September 1st. Today is the 14th of August. It'll be very challenging. It's a 10K, so it's like 6.2 miles or something like that. And yeah, super fun. I have been running every other day following this training program that I have. It's been pretty cool. So on top of raising babies, running a farm, being a wife, all the home duties, I am adding that to the list because that is something that I really want to do as a goal. In the future, I would love to be able to take part in some sort of ultra running race. If I ever get the chance to do that, it'll have to be when the kids are older because that takes a lot of time to train and stuff like that. But that is a goal that I have for myself. And I highly recommend, if you are doing any sort of business, you separate yourself from that and do personal goals as well. I find that I easily get caught up in running this business, and that becomes who I am, and that's not very healthy, because if you have a bad week, it becomes like your identity as well. So I try and separate myself a little bit by having personal goals, and I share those on my personal Instagram page with just like my friends and stuff, and it's just a fun way for me to keep myself accountable, and then my friends like to do it with me, so it's cool. But just another tip. I get asked a lot of times, how do you do all of this? And I am someone who just don't sit still. I literally sat down for just 10 minutes to eat lunch, caught up on some Kara and Nate on YouTube. If you don't watch their channel, I mean, I don't know who doesn't, but they are the best YouTubers in my opinion. I love watching all the things that they do, and he's actually Nate is training for a ultra marathon, or an ultra run right now, the Leadville 100, which is really cool. So I'm really into watching all of their stuff right now. Okay, so salt is mixed in, looking really nice. Sometimes you just know. Sometimes you just know. You can just feel the dough and you know it's going to be a good one. So cutting corners is something that, I'm going to be honest, I used to do all the time. Whether it was in school, I would cut corners by pulling answers to things. I would, whatever I had to do to like get by. I was not a great student, but I got B's and C's, and that was it. And I would do whatever I could to work smarter, not harder. You cannot do that in sourdough. You can have a little bit of lenience with things, but if you start out with a bad starter, the rest of your dough is going to be bad. If you start out being lazy with your dough and you think, it's a little damp, but that's okay, or it's a little dry, but that's okay, it's not, because you're spending so much time making it. Do it right from the beginning, and you will be happy with your results. I've done it multiple times where I'm like, this feels a little wet, but you know what? It'll be fine. And then on bake day, kicking myself in the butt for not listening to myself at the beginning. And people who weigh their stuff in grams, that's probably why you do it. Instead of me, I just feel and decide when I think it's right. Back in the day, they weighed by grams. Don't think so. Okay. That feels great. So we're going to let this sit for a half hour. We're going to do our first stretch and folds. This is the most dough that I've done in one container. That's for sure. I'm sweating. And tonight, I'm going to have to do another 18 in here, let it proof overnight. And then we're going to shape it all in the morning while these ones are baking. And then we're going to have to do another 18. But those I can separate because I can do my inclusions on the pepperoni, because that order is really heavy on pepperoni. So that's it. I'll be back up in half an hour. I just spent 20 minutes reorganizing my thing over here. Usually on Mondays, I will go through and organize everything. It just wasn't flowing for me. Like, I had to take out every time I wanted to make labels, I had to take the printer out. So now I have it just set it up here where I can just plug it in and print the labels. I have my bags right here, boxes for scones and stuff up here, more label stuff, and then cooking supplies are a little lower, which makes a lot more sense. Sometimes you just do things because that's how you've done them. It's not always the best. So we're always changing and evolving. I hope that works out better. So we're doing our first set of stretch and folds. Here I do coil folds. And what I do is I pull up the dough from the very top of my bin. So I'm going to show you guys. So I lift it up a little bit just so I can get under. And usually I've been doing this on my kitchen table. And then I drop it down on itself. And then I do the same thing again. And drop it back down on itself. And then I turn my bin halfway. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lift it up. So again, this is a lot of dough. So lifting it up. Dropping it back down, and do it again. This is so heavy. All right, and then turn it on its side. And we're gonna lift it and drop it. I'm gonna do that again. Turn it halfway again. Lift and drop. It's getting easier as I'm doing this because it's starting to create that stretch on the bread that it needs. Holy cow, this is heavy. Hopefully these stretch and folds are even doing something. Looks good. Okay, so we do that, and then we're going to cover it. We're going to do that every half an hour for probably 2 or 3 more times. When you're working in bulk, you don't need to do as many stretch and folds. The dough really will kind of show when it's done being stretched. I always tell people when it starts to look very smooth, that's when you can stop stretching and folding. Some people insist on doing 4 or 6 or whatever, but I kind of go with whatever it looks like. I've seen people stretch and fold over and over and over, and it actually starts to break the bread, and you don't want to break the dough. You don't want to do that. All right, we're doing our next set of stretch and folds. I just got myself a coffee. It's almost 4 o'clock, and I usually don't drink coffee past 2, but it's going to be a long night, so cheers. Okay, let's do it. Another question I get asked often is, what is my favorite thing to make with sourdough? And I think it's so fun to talk to sourdough bakers about their favorites, because most of us, we start with bread. The artisan bread is pretty much everyone's entry into sourdough. But like most bakers, we want to expand our menu. So the few things that I have made, I've done pizza, I've done donuts, I've done bagels, I have done all kinds of discard stuff like crackers, cookies, muffins. My absolute favorite thing to make is the bread. It's the most time consuming, but it is the one thing that I feel like I can be artsy with the design, with how I form it. It's really fun for me to wake up on bake day to start baking these loaves and seeing how this hard work has come together, and then I get to sell that bread. So for me, it's definitely the bread. I do like making scones for the ease of it. Scones, if you don't make them, they're so easy. I know a lot of people have posted like all different kinds of recipes. You can literally put anything in your scones, from bacon to anything, blueberry, strawberry, all the things. You can make them savory, you can make them sweet. You don't need an active starter. You can literally just take part of your starter and use it for the ingredients. Those are the 2 things that I like to stick with. I did do donuts for a while, and though they were really good, my donuts aren't the best. And we have a really well-known local donut shop. There's no point in me trying to make donuts when I know that that is like the go-to for donuts. So donuts were fun, and I think they tasted delicious, but for the time and effort I put into them, I don't think it was worth it. So for me, it's definitely the bread. I want to know what your favorite sourdough thing is, so let me know in the comments what your favorite thing to make is. And if it is bread, is it plain? Let me know the flavor. All right, it is 8 o'clock and this dough is definitely ready to go. So I have a glass bowl and I have my kitchen scale here. My loaves are 850 grams of the plain. So what I'm doing here is I don't have any inclusions. As of right now, I am just portioning out this dough into 850 grams. And then from there, I will do my inclusions. For me, this is just a bit easier because I don't have to do a bunch of different containers for my inclusions. It's literally all just in here. Okay, so as you can see, I have 18 separate loaves here. And these are all going to be different inclusions and plain and mini. So we're going to get started on forming all of these. Good morning. We started baking early this morning before the sun came up, so I couldn't really record, but everything is looking so beautiful. I just got in from doing barn chores, having the rest of my little cup of coffee, and really just reflecting on the business this morning. We are going to, this lighting is not good, especially with my glasses. Sorry guys. We are going to a harvest festival in a few weeks. That is going to be exposure to a lot of customers, potential customers, and I want to make sure that they are understanding what we offer. So I've been working on some like jumbo postcards that are going to show our workshop information. So yeah, we're working on that this morning. Baking's going great. I just thought it would be a good reminder to reflect on your business as it stands right now and what can you do to improve and what can you do to make it more efficient. I have my last few loaves in. I actually made 2 extra. One I am baking right now in a loaf pan. All of these loaves are looking so beautiful. I also started more dough. I'm gonna have to do this twice today for tomorrow's orders. I have 36 for tomorrow, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get that all done. But I just wanted to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate all of the comments and the love. I absolutely enjoy, this is one of my favorite things that I love about this MicroBakery is sharing the knowledge that I have with you guys and you sharing it with me. This community really has like encouraged me to keep going when times are hard. And I'm telling you right now, times are hard. I am at the point where I am baking too many loaves a week to sustain in my oven. And it's just a little trying. It's taking a lot more time than it did before. But I just want to say thank you so much. You guys are so kind, so awesome. And I hope that you guys are having a successful baking day if you're baking. But I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.